am Carla Schaefer, designer for Antiques Beads, and I'll be demonstrating how to do a Kumihimo bracelet in a 12 warp twist. What you'll need for this project is a Kumihimo foam disc. I'm going to be using waxed cord, cotton cord in 2 colors. You will also need a clasp. In this case, I'm using a hook. And you will also need a measuring tape, some Zap-A-Gap, a pair of scissors, and you may want to use some bobbins for the Kumihimo threads. The first thing that we need to do is determine how much of the wax cord we're going to use. And again, just like all the other projects where I've just taken my measurement and multiplied it by 3, I'm going to do that as well, but I'm actually going to add a little extra. I found that this pattern tends to eat up a little more cord than the others. And another thing is we're using 12 warp threads instead of the 8. So this is just a little more difficult to get into a rhythm on as the 8 warp. So I'm using 2 colors. I'm going to be using one color as my accent thread, and I'm going to need 2 pieces of that. And I have actually cut these to about 50 inches. And then I'm going to be using one dominant color, and I need 4 of those. And I have doubled these, that's why it's 50 inches. So I've doubled them, and I'm going to have 8 black threads, and then I'm going to have 2 red threads. And I'm also doing this with a hook or a clasp, and we're going to knot the end. And so I'm going to go ahead and string my hook on all my threads here and bring it to the center. And I have already cut my thread for you, so we're just going to center it. I haven't really needed any weight on this project, and you will have a little problem with tangling because of the amount of thread we have. But what I'm going to do now is thread this through the middle, and I'm just going to hang on to the hook right here with my fingers as I load the disc. And we're going to load the disc just a little differently, obviously, since this is 12 warp threads. So I'm going to take my accent color, and I'm going to place them on the west and the east side of the disc. And I do suggest you use bobbins when using this much thread. Right now I'm not using the bobbins since I'm just setting it up, but we will use them. And I'm going to go ahead and place the other 2 red in the east side, so there'll be the 24 and the 8 slot. And then for the 4 black colors, we're going to divide them up, and we're going to place them in the north section 2, but we're going to bring them over a notch. So we're going to slide them in between the 30 and the 2, between the 1 and the 2. And then for the south, we're going to do the same. We're going to leave this slot in the middle open. I'm going to slide them 2 into between the 18 and then the 14. And then I'm going to tighten everything up a little bit. And again, I'm just going to keep the tension that I need just by pulling this. Okay, now that I've got it loaded, I want you to be able to see where everything is loaded so we can see how it's set up. And again, this one's not as hard to remember your colors, but again, if you want to track your colors and draw this out on a piece of paper and keep notes on it. But this is how it should look. And like I said, I did find this just a little difficult to keep going on, but it's basically the same as any other Kumihimo, except for you're dealing with more threads. So I'm going to work these in sections, and I'm going to start from the bottom. Actually, you are always going to pick up the left, and you're going to bring it to the top. Then you're going to bring this one back down. Then you're going to do the same with this next section. You're going to bring it up from the bottom and bring it down. And then you're going to go counterclockwise. See, I've already done it wrong. For whatever reason, I keep going the wrong direction and pulling down from the top to the bottom. So we want to go from the bottom to the top. And again. And as soon as you get, a couple of rounds on this, you'll be able to see the braid, and it's really just a neat pattern. But it's just one of those things that I felt that was just sometimes hard to keep up with. This is one that you definitely want to be conscious of where you are. If you need to stop, again, use this as your stopping point right here. That way you've got the 3 threads there and you know that you need to bring this one down. And as you can see, I'm kind of getting all tangled up here, so that's why the bobbins are a good idea. I want to stop and show you. You can see a little bit of the braid here and how it kind of creates this little ridge in your accent color. It's just going to be just a really neat piece. And I'll just go in a couple more rounds, and then I've got one that's almost complete that I'll show you. Oop. And again, I made a mistake there, so I need to come over here. If you feel like you need to tighten everything up, just give it a little tug. You can see a little better of how this is going to come out now. And I'll go ahead and show you how to complete it. This is the piece that I have almost completely done. As you can see, the little ridge and twist that this has in it. And as I said, bobbins are highly important when you're working with that much thread, and they are very soft and they just kind of, pop together, and you can pull the thread out of these as you go. You don't have to open it every time. And again, I have stopped here where my thread is over. So I'm just going to do a couple more rounds. And as you're doing this, if you find that you make a mistake, you kind of lose a little bit of the ridge that accent color gives you. And you can see, as I said, I started going clockwise sometimes instead of counterclockwise, or I was bringing things up from the top to the bottom. Just got to kind of pay a little more attention to this one. Now, the bobbins come in a package of 8, and we're using 12 threads, so I just did an every other thread on the black, and they've still helped me keep from tangling. And this, we're going to be tying a knot in it, so I have this probably about, before I started again, about 6.5 inches, so probably be a good time to end this. But if you want to continue, make it longer, be all right. But we want to be sure and have enough threads to tie an overhand knot. Actually, we're going to be doing 2 overhand knots for the clasp I've chose. So this is how it looks. See a little bit of the ridge. I'm going to tighten this back up a little bit, and I'm going to drop some hypo cement on this end just to contain it when I pull it off the loom or the disc. I don't really want it to dry with it all apart like this, so I'm going to pull it out so I can tie a nice overhand knot. So I'm going to pull the threads up. I'm going to remove the bobbins. We're going to tie a knot over this end, so it doesn't matter how pretty that looks. So I've got my bracelet. And I'm just going to tie an overhand knot. And since you're working with so many threads here, you just want to make sure you get them all pulled. And I actually want it to come down a little further over the glued part. I'm going to loosen it a little bit. Pull it down. You may need to pull on them, your threads individually till you get your knot. Now since this is somewhat of a large loop there, I'm going to need a bigger knot, so I'm just going to tie again. And then what I've done is what you'll do is you'll cut these little threads off here on the end. I'd leave a little tail. I'd probably drop a little glue on the ends of here to keep it from fraying. And then when you put it on your wrist, you can just simply take the braid and run it up through the hook. You need to open it a little bit. In the right colors, this would probably be a good bracelet for a young man or a boy because it's a little more, can be a little more masculine. But this is a new way to do a twist on the Kumihimo bracelet.